Kamala Harris has been accused of sticking too closely to her talking points, as well as radically changing her talking points. Well, she did both of those and more in a new interview with NBC, and she got pressed on the question that Americans have been dying to know. Did she lie to the American people about Joe Biden's health? Welcome to Newspeak, I'm Kellum. So Kamala Harris sat down with NBC host Hallie Jackson, and I thought that Jackson did a pretty good job of sticking to issues that a majority of Americans care about and not letting Harris get away with non-answers. That said, there were also some pretty basic fact checks missing from the interview. So the first question she got, I thought, was possibly the headline of it all, because it goes to the criticism that Kamala Harris doesn't have any firm principles. She just says whatever will get her the votes in the moment. Take a look.
Our new NBC News poll shows that more voters think that the Biden administration policies have hurt them rather than helped them. And I wonder, are the last 4 years an obstacle to you in this race?
Here's how I look at it. First of all, let me be very clear. Mine will not be a continuation of the Biden administration. I bring my own experiences, my own ideas to it.
Okay, so the reason this is such a bombshell answer is because she previously said this on The View.
Well, if anything, would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind in terms of, and I've been a part of most of the decisions that have had impact.
Now, the reason this is so newsworthy is because Harris is presenting herself as the change candidate. Her economic plan is called A New Way Forward, implying that she intends to change how the economy is being run. Trump's running mate, J.D. Vance, had a heyday with that answer.
Maybe we should change the slogan of the Kamala Harris campaign to "Nothing Comes to Mind."
By the time she went on the Colbert Show, she had obviously gotten the feedback because her answer was at least a little more nuanced.
Under a Harris administration, what would the major changes be and what would stay the same?
Sure. Well, I mean, I'm obviously not Joe Biden.
I noticed.
And so that would be one change in terms of. Yes. But also, I think it's important to say with 28 days to go, I'm not Donald Trump.
And then, during a CNN town hall on Wednesday, she drilled down on her new position, saying that her administration won't be a continuation of Biden's.
My administration will not be a continuation of the Biden administration. I bring to this role my own ideas and my own experience. I represent a new generation of leadership on a number of issues and believe that we have to actually take new approaches.
Okay, so that was one issue she's had, shall we say, an evolution on. The other issue she's been in the hot seat about is her position on taxpayer funding for gender-changing surgeries for federal inmates. She previously said she was all for it, and Trump has released a campaign ad attacking her for that position.
Kamala supports taxpayer-funded sex changes for prisoners.
Surgery.
For prisoners.
For prisoners. Every transgender inmate in the prison system would have access.
Okay, so that was the first time she ran for president. As you may remember, she dropped out of the race even before the primaries, so obviously she's been given some advice on how to appeal to a more conservative audience since then.
Do you believe that transgender Americans should have access to gender-affirming care in this country?
I believe we should follow the law. I mean, I think you're probably pointing to the fact that Donald Trump's campaign has spent tens of millions of dollars.
They're trying to define you on this.
Yes,
I'm asking you to define yourself, though. Just broadly speaking, what is your value? Do you believe they should have that access?
I believe that people, as the law states, even on this issue about federal law, that is a decision that doctors will make in terms of what is medically necessary. I'm not going to put myself in the position of a doctor.
The problem with that answer that the interviewer should have challenged her on is that she's not running to be some bureaucrat who has no say in the law. As president, she can make the law. I thought Fox News anchor Bret Baier did a much better job in challenging her on this point.
Would you still advocate for using taxpayer dollars for gender reassignment surgeries?
I will follow the law, just as I think
say
Donald Trump would say he did.
you would have a say as president.
Like I said, I think it's he spent $20 million on those ads.
Now, the reason she's saying that is because following the law means that federal inmates could have access to taxpayer-funded gender-changing surgeries. Just last month, a federal judge ruled in favor of a man in Indiana getting sex reassignment surgery at the taxpayer's expense. The man was serving 55 years for strangling his 11-month-old stepdaughter to death in 2001. The judge ruled that the inmate's gender dysphoria constituted a serious medical need, overturning the state's law banning taxpayers from funding such surgeries. Another misleading statement Harris made that she wasn't challenged on is that law enforcement officials died as a result of January 6th.
Well, and 140 law enforcement officers were attacked. Some were killed.
Okay, so it's true that officers were attacked, and it's also true that some died after the event, but all 5 of them died by suicide or natural causes. Now, for 2 of those suicides, the Department of Justice ruled that they had died in the line of duty. So it's not to say that January 6th had no effect on their deaths, but again, the connection is a little less clear than Harris would make you believe. Now, one thing I think a lot of Americans were happy to see is that NBC pressed her on whether she lied to the American people about Biden's mental fitness.
Can you say that you were honest with the American people about what you saw in those moments with President Biden as you were with him again and again, repeatedly in that time?
Of course. Joe Biden is an extremely accomplished, experienced, and capable in every way that anyone would want if they're president.
You never saw anything like what happened at the debate night behind closed doors with him?
It was a bad debate. People have bad debates. He is absolutely.
But that's the reason why you're here, and he's not running for the top of the ticket.
Well, you'd have to ask him if that's the only reason why.
What do you think?
I am running for president of the United States. Joe Biden is not. And my presidency will be about bringing a new generation of leadership to America that is focused on the work that we need to do to invest in the ambitions and aspirations of the American people.
Remember, after the debate, she went on camera and she said that she didn't see any problem with his ability to lead the country.
Yes, there was a slow start, but it was a strong finish. And what became very clear through the course of the night is that Joe Biden is fighting on behalf of the American people, on substance, on policy, on performance. Joe Biden is extraordinarily strong.
Now, as you can see, Harris never really answers the question, which is, was she being honest with the American people about Biden's mental fitness? But at least NBC tried, and sometimes it's the lack of answer that is the answer.
It's a judgment question. That's why I ask. Can the American people trust you in these moments, even when it's maybe uncomfortable for Americans to level with Americans in that way? So that's why I ask. And it sounds like what you're saying is you feel like you never saw anything like that from President Biden.
I have worked with Joe Biden, hours and hours and hours over these 4 years, whether it be in the Situation Room or the Oval Office. Joe Biden is the one who was able to bring NATO together during a crisis where, for the first time in 70 years, Europe saw and has seen war. Joe Biden has done the work that has been about being a leader on what we have done to fix so much of what has been broken in terms of the economy because of Donald Trump's mismanagement. I speak with not only sincerity, but with a real firsthand account of watching him do this work. I have no reluctance in saying that. No, of course I don't.
So, what do you think about the interview? Were there more fact checks you think NBC should have done? And if so, which ones? Let me know in the comments below. Once again, I'm Holly Kellum, and you're watching Newspeak.